I remember when I first started working on cars, it was not in this garage because this garage was full, but it was right out here. I can remember it being pouring rain and trying to change the exhaust on my Supra in this spot exactly. A lot of those oil stains are probably from that Supra as well. Today we're converting my parents' garage into a paint booth, and it's going to take a little bit of work. This is what we're here for. So let me show you what we got and what our plan is going to be. We have just about everything we need here. The only things we're missing are the actual paint guns, and I have white sheeting that's going to go up around the side that I don't have, but I have black sheeting for the roof simply because we had black. But we have our drain hoses, we have our actual air hose, our connectors, our valves, our pressure regulators, and our pressure gauges. We have actual paint for a car that's getting painted soon, and then we have the coolest thing of all, which is this super air cleaner that's going to be our final step before we exit the hose, so that way we're not getting any oil or gas or air particulates, just plain pure air. Look how cool this filter thing looks. So how do we actually attach all of this in order to make ourselves a working paint setup? Well, let me show you. Well, first off, we start with an air compressor. Now I have an 80-gallon air compressor here. You can use a 60-gallon, which will work just fine. This one just happened to be on sale when I bought it. Here are the specs in case you guys are curious about this air compressor. This is hooked up and good to go, but we need to attach our hoses. So we are going to do these in two separate areas. The first thing we're going to need to do is the drain particulate hose, and that's going to go all along the side here. This is 50 feet of hosing with a couple drains to make sure there's no water going into the filters. Then after that, on this back wall, we're going to make another mounting board that is going to have the actual set of 4 filters that I just showed you all right there in a line with our hose attachment coming out, so that way we can just attach and detach the hose very easily from this side without having to reach any other area. I drew a diagram of what that is going to look like, and in the center you can see up and down is our 50 feet of hose. So if you guys are actually curious about the plumbing yourself, you could just pause and look at that. But we're going to have this mounted to one piece of plywood, and then this extra valve part mounted to the other. And it's really as simple as that. Once everything is completely installed, at the end of the video, I will walk you through each piece so that way you know exactly what pieces I'm using for your own compressor. But for now, we're going to start to mount 50 feet of hose with drain tubes. So let's begin. This is my favorite wall in the entire garage, and it is where we need to start putting our pieces together for the air compressor setup, because over here we need to run 50 feet of hose. So we are going to run it starting around here where it connects around the back, run all the way up on the roof, come back down to have a drain at the bottom, and then have it run back up, and then shoot over this way to where we're having our super drying filtering setup. So we're gonna go ahead and start by taking all the hose and running it up along this side and getting ourselves an area where it could catch any possible water that comes into the system. So let's begin. Bought this really cool American flag duct tape. I'm not done hanging the pipe yet. I just got distracted and had to go buy another fitting, and so I got duct tape as well. I don't even know what I'm gonna use it for. It's just cool. 5 hours of slaving away later, and it's time to give you an update. It's actually only been an hour, but I like to exaggerate. So we have one of our tubes running and another one still being run. But I realized at this point, oops, there goes the camera. But I realized at this point it's time to mount the filtration system up upon the wall, because I'm going to need to attach this end to the filtration system. So if it's not up there, then there's no point in continuing to plumb, because I may plumb it to the wrong direction and have to redo it all. So here's how this is going to go. The plan is simply to attach the system to this board, and then we'll attach this board up onto the back behind the air compressor. We have our end fitting where the hose is going to connect right here. I have the option to attach a 90-degree piece to it, which I may do, but for now we have enough so that way we can get this mounted, put it up on the wall, finish getting this mounted, and at that point we're actually ready to test the entire system. We're getting really close, and I can't wait to have this completely plumbed up and ready to go. So let's go ahead and get that piece on and finish getting the tubing all connected up. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the workbench. Here we have an assortment of different fittings and couplers that we are going to need to all attach to each other, and this will connect directly from the end of the air compressor tank. To start off, the first thing that we have is a on-off shut-off valve. Now this is imperative to have this immediately after the air tank, so that way you can shut off right at the source just in case you need to. This will keep pressure from going to the rest of the lines without you having to drain the entire air tank, so this is a very important piece. Next thing we have is a pressure gauge, which does exactly as it sounds. It limits the pressure going flowing out of the air tank to the rest of the lines. And the final piece is the piece that will hook up to our 50 feet of hose that'll give us the opportunity and the ability to drain any moisture or water that builds up inside the lines before it gets to our actual gun. Now you may notice that there are a bunch of extra fittings in here. These are all adapters because these all happen to be different size threads. We have 3/8, 1/4, and 3/4. Now you can bypass all of this by making sure to get the correct valves that have the bigger sizes of threadings, preferably working 3/4 and up, so that way you don't have to have all these adapters. But for the paint setup, our paint pressure isn't going to be incredibly high. It's going to be set at 80 the whole entire time, so even with some of the smaller fittings in restricted areas, our paint gun will easily operate in the way that we need it. So our next step is to go ahead and attach all of these pieces together and get them hooked up to the air compressor. It's set up! We have officially finished setting everything up. All the hoses are run to the roof and run back down this to let all the water pick up at this one singular point along the bottom. You want to make sure to have everything on top so that way it does collect at the bottom instead of collecting somewhere up top. And the other area the water might collect is right possibly in here where it goes into a bunch of filters, so we're okay in those regards there. And so this is all set up to test. So what we need to do next is we need to make sure all the valves are closed, and then we're going to go ahead and turn this on for a while, let it fill up, and then we're going to set our pressure at 80 psi at all of the different pressure points. So this way we have a bunch of different checks to make sure we're not getting too much going into the hose, so that way once that is done, we'll be able to connect our hose and make sure that's working before we get on to having to shield off the rest of this garage, so that way we're not having any dust falling as we're painting the car. But that's not going to happen until we test this. So let's go ahead and turn this on. It's also the most nerve-wracking point because if I messed up one singular joint and it's not tight enough, that's an issue.
1 hour later.
The compressor is all charged up and it's time to actually let the air flow through the system to see if it's leaking. So we're going to turn this valve on first, and this should run all the way through the blue piping up to the filtration system. Now it's currently set at 150 psi, not by me, but just from the manufacturer here at the gauge by the on-off switch, but we're going to try to set this at 80 psi. But first, like I said, it's time to actually turn it on and hope it doesn't explode. So let's go for that. Alright, nothing exploded, but right away I'm seeing a leak coming out from right here. I could hear it, and if I put my hand up behind, it resonates, it's shooting forward. So it's shooting out of the bottom, so all we need to do is we need to tighten up this valve right here. So we're going to grab a couple wrenches and get that taken care of, and hopefully that should finish sealing off this valve right here. This section is now taken care of and tightened up, so it's time to move on to the next one and release the valve that's right behind here. So let's open that one up and see where we're sitting. We're now quite steadily holding pressure at 80 psi on the whole tank, which is great. At two separate points, not hearing any air leak out at all, so we're exactly where we want to be. Now it's time to actually hook up the hose, so now we can have that plugged in and ready to go for paint, and then we're going to be good to set up the sheeting. I'm so excited. Last step, and then we got to go to sheeting off the entire garage, which is going to completely change the look. The hose we're using is this 50-foot 3/8 inch flex hose. That should give us the ability to A, use it more higher pressure, but B, also be able to flex it around the car so it's not going to be in the way at all. So we have this, and in addition we have high flow fittings that are going on to the end of it. Now it's important to note that they're high flow couplers and not normal couplers. High flow couplers have more space on the inside diameter as compared to the regular couplers, so this is what we want in order to get a smoother paint flow for when we're actually using the gun. So the way that we're hooking this up is we are going to hook up one of these adapters to the end that'll plug straight into the actual compressor tank itself, and then we'll have another one on the end that'll then go into a regulator, a final pressure regulator, so that way we can set the PSI right at the gun itself for different primers, base, or clear coats, and this way we don't have to adjust it at the tank, but we can just do it at the gun itself. So we're going coupler to hose to another coupler, pressure regulator, which will go straight into the gun. So let's open this up and get this attached.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.
The next day.
I got plastic for the roof. This is a 10 by 100 square foot black sheet plastic roll. We're not going to use all of it by any means, but what we're going to do is we're going to take this and do this along the roof. This will make sure that no dust comes from the top and falls down on top of the cars as we're painting them, especially if you're doing this in your garage where it's old and there's likely a lot of dust just from who knows what being up on the roof. Having a cover for that is imperative. Now, some of you may have the legitimate question of why are you doing black and not white, because it seems like white would reflect light a lot better. Now, you are correct. White does reflect light better, and ideally I would, but this is the plastic that I have right now to work with. I have white for doing the outsides, but for the roof we're doing black, and since the garage doesn't have any skylights, it's actually not going to make much of a difference at all, because we're not going to be covering any of the lights because, well, that would be dumb and we're not needing to. So we're going to put this up on the roof, and then once that's done, we'll catch back up to do the clear and white plastic around the outside that will allow light to come through but protect us from more dust. So let's go ahead and start by stapling the plastic to the roof. I found a use for the duct tape. Finished covering the entire roof, or at least the sections that we need, with the black plastic cloth sheeting. That's not cloth, it's just plastic, you know what I mean. But we have our lights on top that are able to see through. One side turned out quite a lot neater than the other side, so I'll probably go back and adjust that one later to make it tighter. But the garage door still opens and closes with it, which leaves us only with plastic sheeting that needs to go around the outside. So my plan is to hang the sheeting up around the outside, let it drape down like normal, and then once it's done, I'll be able to use ties to pull it back up in the meantime, so the garage will still be able to be used as normal. So our plan now is we're going to hang it up along the 3 outer sides of the garage, and then we'll find a way to tie it all up, and then we will be ready to actually paint a car. So we are so stinking close to getting this done, so let's go ahead and finish that up now. Wow, just look at this. This is a paint booth. This is so crazy just being in here. All of a sudden there's a bunch more echo as well, but we have finished. We set up an air compressor, we put up the sheeting, we're all set to go. I just have to hang this up when I'm not using it, but other than that, this is done. So the real question next is, what car are we gonna paint? Man, this is just crazy to see. Like, this is so much more than just I made a paint booth. This is 4+ years of progress of committing to try to step up my ability, because as you guys know, for any of you who've watched the channel for a while, even if those of you who are new, you know that what I do, it's very much a guy in a garage. And so to be able to have something where it's like I'm taking that step up from spray paint and rattle cans to actually having the setup to do a professional's paint job. Like, will it turn out professional? Do I have a booth that can cook paint? No, but it's a huge step up. So this is really cool for myself. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys, because you guys are along this journey with me. I don't want to leave you guys out of this loop, to let you guys know this is special for me. So I'm excited to put a whole bunch of use into this paint booth. So go ahead and check out the link down below, philosooper.com. A whole bunch of new designs, over 30 new designs out. So go ahead and check that out, find something you like and pick it up. And I can't wait to see you guys when we get to start painting next. I'll catch you later. Subscribe.